Hello participants, thanks for joining today's session. The title for today's session is Sensory Strategies for Promoting Wellness. And we have 3 learning outcomes. So after this session, participant will be able to define sensory processing disorder and identify its subtypes. The second, they will be able to list at least 5 sensory strategies to promote wellness at home. And third, they will be able to recognize and explore at least 4 website resources to further understand different aspects of sensory strategies. Let's begin by defining sensory processing disorder. Sensory processing disorder is a complex disorder of the brain that affects children and adults. People with sensory processing disorder misinterpret everyday sensory information such as touch, sound, and movement. And they may feel bombarded by information. They may seek out intense sensory experience, or they may be unaware of sensation that other feels. Sensory processing disorder, or SPD in short, occur on a spectrum, with mildly affected individual coping with their sensory challenges to a more severely affected individual who have greater difficulties with performing routine daily tasks. As you could see in this slide, the sensory processing disorder could be divided in 3 primary patterns of sensory modulation disorder, sensory based motor disorder, and the third, sensory discrimination disorder. If we look closely at the first major pattern, the sensory modulation disorder, it has further been divided into 3 subtypes. The first, sensory over-responsivity. Individuals who are sensory over-responsive, they are very reactive to small amount of external or internal stimuli than typical kid. For example, they may cover ear when something seems too loud, or they might want to run away and hide. Some may be sensory under-responsive, mean they feel things too late and too little. For example, child may not be able to tell whether the water is too hot or too cold. While the third subtype is sensory craver. They are always on the go, constantly moving. While the second pattern is sensory based motor disorder, and it has been divided into 2 subtypes like postural disorder and dyspraxia, where you may note that individuals have difficulty stabilizing his or her body during movement, or you will notice they have a poor core strength. Sensory discrimination disorder is the third major pattern of sensory processing disorder. Individuals have difficulty interpreting and distinguishing messages with one or more sensory systems. Individuals with sensory discrimination disorder have difficulty at the most basic level in determining what's the same and what's the different about sensory stimuli, such as a written B versus D, or they may refuse to go to certain restaurant due to olfactory system or smell discrimination disorder. All this may result in more confusion and frustration for the child. From the title of this session, it may be clear to you that we intend to learn about sensory strategies. So it is very important that we know about our sensory system. 5 senses that more or less we know or learn about as a child, and those are taste, sound, smell, sight, and the touch sensation. But do you also know that there are 3 hidden senses, and they are vestibular, which is governed by your inner ear and tell us where our head are in space, whether we are right side up or upside down. It has influence over muscle tone, the body posture, and the coordination between eye movement and the head movement. While the second one, the proprioceptive or the proprioceptions, it tells us where your body is in space. Proprioceptive system is the input to our muscle and joint during heavy work. It tells us information about movement, position, and force exerted by muscle and joint. And the last, or what I would say, the eighth system is the interoception. It gives us the sense of internal organ, such as body temperature, feeling of hunger or fullness. A lot of time we think these kids are acting out, not listening to us or not paying attention. They get sent to principal's office or may get in trouble or get labeled as the behavior kid. But in reality, we need to look deeper into the underlying issues. In the following slides, I will discuss some of the strategies that could be applied with individuals with autism spectrum disorder, sensory processing disorder, ADHD, Down syndrome, cerebral palsy, developmental delays, anxiety disorder, and also with any typical child to promote their wellness. And it's primarily by creating a sensory lifestyle. A sensory lifestyle is how you incorporate the sensory tool that you have into your everyday life. It is not a specific diet for a child because every child is different. We'll talk about activities and strategies, but it's best to learn through trial and error what works best for each child. And one of the best and simple strategy to follow is sleep. Sleep is very important for a child and for the whole family. So, have a consistent bedtime routine, have comfortable bedding, and weighted blankets are preferred. Have calming music, and you could also switch on night lights. Try to have the child sleep in their own bed. Try to create a tent over the bed if needed, and body pillow can be comforting too for the child. Eating is another sensory strategy. Eating healthy is very important for your child, and some of the mealtime tips are: make it family style dinner or lunch. Make eating fun. Try food of different texture, color, and smell. Have something preferred for after the child touches or tastes a new food. Like, if the child likes to watch his favorite cartoon show, reward the child if the child tried the healthy but not so tasty vegetable soup for the first time by allowing to watch his favorite cartoon show. Also, always present a protein source, fruit or vegetable, and starch at every meal, snacks, and one preferred food. Don't allow your child to food jag, that means eat the same food over and over again. Like, if they had chicken nugget on Monday, they cannot have them again until Wednesday. When we talk about sensory strategies to promote wellness, then calming strategies are definitely in the list. Calming strategies such as taking deep breath, drinking through a straw and sucking on hard candies, taking a break, lowering the light and switching on a soft calming music, taking warm bath, talking in soft voice, giving rocking or slow linear swing to the child, giving deep pressure, hug, weighted vest and the blanket are some of the calming strategies to practice. Apart from those shown in this particular slide, mindfulness is another strategy, and mindfulness is defined as a mental state achieved by focusing on one's awareness on the present moment. Mindful breathing, mindful eating, mindful body, and mindful listening all are important part of becoming mindful. Also, deep breathing, meditation, massage, and yoga have been identified as the 4 complementary and alternative medicine therapies, and its awareness and application are on constant rise, especially yoga. Yoga can be practiced for therapeutic reasons to improve regulation, movement, strength, and coordination. Yoga also supports the sensory system by regulating one's arousal level. Another sensory strategy that one should consider is of creating a therapeutic garden either at home or in the community, which is also in many sense a sensory garden, as it engages one's motor skill by facilitating grip strength, bilateral upper limb coordination, dynamic balance, core strength, and the upper extremity muscle strengthening. Therapeutic garden is also an effective means of providing sensory input to the user in many ways, and one can get sensory input by watering hose pressure for proprioception, tactile touching of water and the soil, by smelling or tasting the plant, or even by wearing the long sleeve or gloves for sensory sensitivity. And of course, it engages and helps to improve executive functioning skill of the user as children learn basic information about plant, sun or shade, plants watering needs, and they also pretend play with fairy garden. With this, I come to an end of this session, and I would like to share with you some website resources to help engage people with various sensory issues. And these website resources are good to get tips on from sensory parenting to sensory products. And I'd recommend you to further explore this recommended website. With this, I end my session. Thanks for listening.